60% of gym memberships go, like, completely unused after January.
Oh, easily. It's staggering.
Right. And we don't quit because we are lazy. We quit because our brains are literally tricking us into thinking we are failing.
Yeah, the brain is, it's actively working against us there.
It really is. I mean, you wake up one day, you look at your life, and decide you are going to completely reinvent yourself. You buy the new planner, you set the alarm for 5 a.m., and for about, 6 days, you're an absolute machine.
A total paragon of discipline, just running entirely on the fumes of a fantasy.
Exactly. And then day 7 hits, the alarm goes off, it's pitch black outside, the floor is freezing, and suddenly that grand vision of your new life just evaporates into the cold air.
It's gone. Poof.
We have all been there. You, listening right now, I know you have a graveyard of unfinished plans. You have routines you abandoned. You have that gym membership you used for what we can really only call a short 6-day emotional experiment.
An emotional experiment is honestly the perfect way to phrase it, because the psychology behind our abandoned goals is far more complex than just a simple lack of willpower.
Which is exactly why today's source material is so fascinating. On the surface, we're looking at a transcript from an English learning show called the English League Podcast. It's hosted by Anna and Jake.
Right, which sounds like an unexpected place to find this kind of psychology.
Totally. But hidden inside this language lesson is this profound exploration of a deeply uncomfortable topic, like why we quit our goals too early without even realizing it.
Yeah, they really get into the weeds of human behavior.
They do. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the psychology of what they call the boring middle. We are going to uncover why we mistake discomfort for failure and find out how to stay the course when the initial excitement totally fades.
Because it always fades.
Always. By the end of this deep dive, you are going to understand why Monday is the most trusted and overburdened life coach in the entire world.
Oh, for sure. Delegating our aspirations to Monday is the ultimate psychological safety net. I mean, saying, I'll restart on Monday allows us to feel good about our intentions without actually, doing the work today.
Right. It gives you the dopamine hit of planning without the sweat of executing.
Exactly. But to understand why we rely on that safety net, we first have to look at why we start things in the first place. Because the initial high of a new goal is actually this huge neurological trap.
Well, let's unpack this, because the beginning of a new goal is incredibly shiny. You have the clean slate, the crisp new notebooks, and obviously a brand new water bottle.
Oh, the water bottle. Hydration being the ultimate illusion of control.
Obviously. If I have a new water bottle, my life is together.
Right. But when we start out, we aren't just thinking about the grueling work ahead. We are picturing our future selves. And as the source material points out, imagination is very generous.
That is such a great phrase. Imagination is very generous.
It is. Because you don't imagine yourself sweating, exhausted, and miserable. You imagine waking up smiling with, perfect posture, completely disciplined and glowing.
You are basically casting yourself as the star of a movie montage.
Yeah, and that montage feels incredible because it bridges the gap between action and identity. Starting a new goal is a highly emotional experience because it is deeply tied to who you want to be.
So it feels good because we feel like we are already that person.
Exactly. You feel an immediate closeness to that idealized version of yourself. It leaves a massive impression on your psyche because you are essentially trying on a new identity. The brain loves this.
It's shortcut.
A total shortcut. It's a shortcut to feeling the social status and self-esteem of success without expending the physical calories required to actually achieve it. It's not about doing the work yet. It's about bathing in the promise of the result.
Okay, but let me push back on that for a second. Isn't that fresh motivation a good thing? I mean, if my generous imagination gets me off the couch and into the gym on day 1, I feel like I should be celebrating that, not calling it a trap.
Well, the spark itself isn't the problem. The problem is expecting a spark to heat your house for the entire winter.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
You have to look at the fuel you are running on. People mistake this initial identity-driven excitement for endurance. Excitement is combustible, it burns bright, and it burns out fast.
So starting strong is easy because of the dopamine.
Right. It's fueled by dopamine and the thrill of novelty. But staying strong requires an entirely different neurological mechanism.
Which brings us to the next phase. So when the novelty wears off and the dopamine crashes, we hit the phase described as the boring middle. And honestly, this is where the magic completely evaporates.
It just disappears.
The process becomes quiet. It becomes repetitive. You have absolutely no idea if you are even making a dent. Think about the last time you tried to learn an instrument or start a new dietary routine. Day 14 isn't glamorous, it's just tedious.
And that tedium takes a heavy physical toll. It slowly, almost invisibly, degrades your energy over time. You keep showing up, but you aren't seeing any tangible returns.
Right, you're just tired.
Yeah. The motivation gives way to feeling completely normal, which then degrades into boredom and eventually a weird sense of resentment. You literally feel personally offended by the demands of your own goal.
Yes. You're on the treadmill thinking, why is this machine demanding so much of my life?
That's the exact feeling. We become reluctant, we drag our feet. But here's the sneakiest part of the whole process. We disguise this pure exhaustion as deep self-honesty.
Oh man, this is where we lie to ourselves.
We really do. We don't say, I'm tired and I want to quit. We adopt this very calm, reasonable inner voice and tell ourselves, you know what? Maybe this just isn't for me. I gave it a shot, but it's not my path.
It sounds so mature. It sounds incredibly rational, which is why it is so dangerous.
Exactly. We convince ourselves we are making a wise, objective pivot. In reality, it is just fatigue mixed with the disappointment of not getting immediate feedback.
Because the boring middle doesn't reward you quickly.
No, it demands that you continue putting in the effort long before things feel worth it. And human brains absolutely despise that arrangement.
Which leads us to a massive question for anyone stuck in that phase. Like, if the middle feels so awful and so unproductive, are we actually wasting our time? Are we just spinning our wheels?
Right, are we doing all this for nothing?
Exactly.
Mm.
But the source material argues the answer is a definitive no. The problem isn't our progress. The problem is our perception.
Yeah, think of your brain as a terrible, unfair manager. You put in 3 solid weeks of quiet, consistent, grueling effort. You show up every single day,
Doing everything right.
doing everything right, and your brain, playing the role of the bad boss, just crosses its arms, looks at your work, and says, I'm unimpressed. Please return when there is glitter.
We desperately crave visible, dramatic proof of our efforts way before the process has had any actual time to breathe. I mean, we want a ticker tape parade just for eating a salad.
We do, because evolutionarily, we are wired for an immediate return on investment. If an ancient human expended energy, they needed immediate calories or safety in return.
So delayed gratification is basically unnatural for us.
It is an incredibly modern, unnatural concept. We are notoriously terrible at judging our own long-term growth. Take the example from Anna and Jake about learning a new language.
Yeah, this was such a good point.
Right. A learner might feel completely defeated because they aren't speaking fluently yet. They can't deliver a perfect grammatical monologue at a dinner party.
So they feel like they are failing.
Exactly. What they fail to notice is that they're starting to understand jerks in that new language. They're hesitating slightly less. They feel a tiny bit less panic when someone asks them a question.
And all of that is progress.
It's huge. The subconscious brain is mapping new neural networks and processing complex phonemes. That is massive biological progress, but to the conscious mind, it is entirely invisible.
It's exactly like building a house. I love this analogy. When you pour the foundation, everything is happening underground. Dig a massive hole, you pour tons of concrete. It takes weeks, it's muddy, and it's a total mess.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much at all.
Right. To anyone walking down the street, it doesn't look like a house. It looks like a giant dirt pit. But that invisible progress is the only reason the walls can eventually go up. If you skip the foundation, the whole structure collapses. You just can't see the work yet.
That's a great way to put it. Invisible progress is the necessary prerequisite for visible confidence. Before a new skill looks smooth and effortless on the outside, it has to grow quietly and awkwardly on the inside.
But the primary danger during this phase is pure panic.
Well, absolutely. Because we don't see the walls going up, we instantly assume we are failing.
We think we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, we assume that a lack of visible results equals a lack of movement. When we don't get the immediate glitter, that unfair manager brain just panics. And this false assumption leads people to quietly walk away from strategies that were secretly working perfectly.
They quit right when the foundation is 90% finished. That is so heartbreaking.
It really is.
So we have this generous imagination that tricks us into starting with combustible fuel, an unfair manager brain that demands immediate glitter, and a whole lot of invisible progress that we literally cannot see. Add all that together, and the journey naturally starts to feel incredibly awkward.
Very awkward. And our brains drastically misinterpret that awkwardness.
We mislabel discomfort as a failure condition. The second something feels difficult or unnatural, we instantly assume it is a sign from the universe to stop.
Right, like you sit down to meditate, Your mind wanders, it feels weird and frustrating, and your brain just screams, "Abort mission! You're doing it wrong! Go back to scrolling on the couch."
Exactly. The brain wants the easy way out.
And the mechanism behind that feeling is fascinating. The brain is essentially a prediction machine designed to conserve energy. When you try to build a new habit, the prefrontal cortex has to work in overdrive. It is exhausting.
Burning up all those cognitive resources.
Yeah, and the brain can't easily predict the outcome of this new behavior, so it interprets that high cognitive load as a literal threat. It screams danger and abort mission just to get you to return to a safe, predictable baseline where it can run on autopilot.
So it's literally trying to save us from perceived danger.
Precisely. You have to completely reframe that friction. Feeling awkward doesn't mean you are failing, it means you are stretching. Your old habits are actively being dismantled and your identity is changing.
Wow.
You cannot physically or psychologically grow and stay fully comfortable at the exact same time.
Wow.
It is a biological impossibility.
So hard doesn't mean harmful, and awkward doesn't mean impossible.
In fact, people often feel the most intense, overwhelming discomfort right on the verge of a breakthrough. When everything feels completely unfamiliar, your ancient defense mechanisms flare up. But that intense unfamiliarity is actually the signal to keep going, not to stop.
That's huge. But let's be honest. What makes navigating this discomfort infinitely harder today is the comparison curveball.
Social media.
Right. Social media algorithms have completely distorted our perception of what growth actually looks like. The internet presents growth as a clean, predictable, straight upward line.
It's an illusion.
A total illusion. You know the exact post I'm talking about. Day 1, confused, bloated, and struggling. Swipe to day 14, glowing in natural sunlight, perfectly organized, and inexplicably drinking a green juice.
There is always a green juice, or like a matcha latte.
Always. And it creates a synthetic benchmark for success that no human being can actually meet. Real life is messy, it's emotional, it involves backsliding,
Yeah.
and it is highly uneven. Think about your own goals for a second. If you compare your behind-the-scenes, awkward, stretching struggle to someone else's polished, day 14 green juice highlight reel, you are going to feel like an absolute failure. And you will feel that way for no scientifically valid reason.
Because growth is fundamentally unpredictable and asymmetrical. It does not follow a neat, universal timeline.
It's different for everyone.
Exactly. One person might get superficial results early, while another person builds a much deeper foundation quietly and sees massive results months later. Comparing the two timelines is mathematically useless.
Okay, I need to stop you there and push back because this sounds great in theory, but what if something genuinely isn't right for you?
That's a fair question.
Like, are we supposed to just force ourselves to suffer forever in the name of stretching? How do you or I or anyone listening know if we are quitting too early or if we're just wisely walking away from a terrible fit?
I mean, that is the most critical tension in this entire discussion. Strategic quitting is a real valuable skill. Walking away is sometimes the healthiest, most productive thing you can do. Not every goal is meant for you.
Right. We don't want to just be stubborn.
Exactly. However, the distinction lies in the origin of the decision. Choosing to walk away must come from a place of wisdom and calm evaluation. It absolutely cannot come from a tired, emotional moment.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
You don't quit during the grueling workout, right? You evaluate the workout program the next day when your heart rate is normal. You shouldn't abandon a career path because of one deeply boring week or a single bad day where your doubt happens to be louder than your logic.
It is entirely about the mental state you are in when you make the choice. You don't make permanent decisions based on temporary discomfort.
Calm evaluation versus emotional panic. And to help navigate that, the English Leap source material offers a profound shift in perspective. They say, comparison asks, am I ahead? But growth asks, am I still here?
Oh, let that sink in for a second. Comparison asks, am I ahead? But growth asks, am I still here? That completely changes the metric for success.
It totally reframes it.
It strips away the anxiety of the race and makes it entirely about resilience.
Yeah.
It's not about beating the person next to you, it's about not leaving the track.
Because shifting the focus from external validation to internal resilience is really the only way to survive the boring middle. If you are still here, still trying, still willing to be bad at something long enough to eventually become good at it.
Then the narrative isn't over.
Exactly. The narrative isn't over.
So knowing all of this is great. We know our brains demand immediate glitter. We know they interpret cognitive friction as a physical threat. And we know social media traps us in a cycle of synthetic comparison. But how do we actually convince ourselves to stay?
When things get hard.
Yeah, when you are in the thick of it and every fiber of your being just wants to burn the current plan and start a new life with a fresh, shiny notebook, what is the actual strategy for enduring?
Well, we have to bypass the brain's desire for drama. The immediate instinct when we feel stuck is to try harder, to make a grander gesture, to punish ourselves into compliance. But the actual psychological fix is to shrink the target. So the first actionable step is to violently narrow down the goal.
Make it tiny. I love the incredibly grounded advice from Anna and Jake here. They say, do not try to fix your whole life by Tuesday.
Which is so funny, but so
It's
true.
so relatable because that's exactly what we do. We get overwhelmed because the goal suddenly feels like a judgment on our entire existence.
Oh, 100%.
You miss one day of a new routine, and instead of just saying, oh, I missed a day, your brain spirals and says, I am a fundamentally flawed person who never follows through on anything. That is way too much existential weight for one single moment to carry.
It's
So
exhausting.
you have to stay hyper-specific. If you want to clean your house, don't look at the whole house. Just clean one drawer. Focus only on the next small step.
Right. If the routine feels too heavy, you don't drop it, you make it lighter. But narrowing the goal doesn't fix the underlying emotional void when you are deeply bored. Which brings us to the second mechanism. You have to anchor your effort to an honest reason.
An honest reason. What does that look like?
Well, when you hit the boring middle, the dramatic, spite-driven reasons like wanting a revenge body or wanting to prove a high school teacher wrong, those motivations burn out. Spite and vanity are terrible long-term fuels. You have to return to intrinsic, deeply human reasons.
So it shifts from, I want to look like a fitness model in 4 weeks to, I want to feel healthy enough to run around with my kids without getting winded.
Yes, exactly.
Or you are seeking peace, seeking financial stability, or just building basic self-respect. Those quiet, steady anchors are what keep you from blowing away when the initial excitement fades.
And those human anchors allow you to embrace the third and perhaps most forgiving strategy, which is allowing imperfect consistency. The source material provides a line that honestly belongs on a plaque in every workspace. They say, a messy effort that continues is often stronger than a perfect effort that disappears.
A messy effort that continues. We are so culturally conditioned to believe that if we can't do something perfectly, we shouldn't do it at all. The classic all-or-nothing mindset.
But perfection is incredibly fragile. The moment a perfect streak is broken, people quit entirely. Messiness, on the other hand, is robust and resilient. And this comes down to neuroplasticity.
How so?
Well, every time you perform a habit, even if you do a terrible job at it, you are strengthening the synaptic connection in your brain. You are reinforcing the neurological pathway. You are pouring another bucket of concrete into that invisible foundation. Habit formation doesn't care about perfection. It only cares about repetition.
So a 5-minute terrible low-energy workout is scientifically better than a 0-minute perfect workout.
Mathematically and biologically better.
Which leads perfectly into the final piece of the strategy, showing willingness.
Right. And this requires a conscious shift in your internal dialogue. We need to stop waking up and asking ourselves, do I feel inspired today? Because in the boring middle, the answer will almost always be no.
Inspiration has left the building.
Long gone. Instead, the question must become, can I stay with this just a little longer?
That's a little longer. I love that. You aren't asking yourself to conquer the world. You are just asking yourself not to leave the room. It's not about heroic leaps. It's about stubborn presence.
Exactly. Sometimes the absolute bravest thing a person can do isn't a massive display of willpower or a dramatic pivot. Sometimes the bravest thing is simply not leaving the quiet work. It's demonstrating the willingness to exist in the awkwardness, even when the magic is completely gone.
Let's bring all of this together, because we've covered massive ground today. We started by realizing that the shiny beginning is actually a neurological trap, right? A generous trick of our imagination that gets us moving by letting us play dress up with a new identity, but completely fails to provide the endurance we need to actually finish the job.
We then inevitably descend into the boring middle, a phase that feels like a wasteland, but is, in reality, the active construction site for your invisible foundation.
We discovered that our brain is basically an unfair manager demanding immediate glitter, and that because it's a prediction machine trying to conserve energy, it constantly mislabels the necessary discomfort of stretching as a biological threat to abort the mission.
Which is why we have to stop comparing our messy, behind-the-scenes struggles to someone else's day 14 green juice highlight reel.
And we laid out a survival strategy to counteract all of this. Drastically narrow down the goal so it doesn't carry excess